Welcome to episode 815 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Dow Tippett, author of 7 Daily Choices. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to make the right choices every day is key, and one way to be inspired to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend Scott Mader.
Create something like that Post-it note, or even sometimes just carrying your debit card or your credit card in a different place in your wallet, believe it or not, can change your spending behavior. Because by taking that extra moment of going to look for it, it slows you down enough that your brain kicks in and goes, wait.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about impacting the world through stewarding your treasures, I talk with you about the triggers that may cause you to spend and waste money. I share how you can also establish triggers that would actually help you not to spend, and I share some examples of each of these types of triggers. As we talk about stewarding your treasures, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without costing yourself an extra dime? Turns out you can. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show. If you enjoy the show when you're ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon. So all week we've been talking about triggers and how these things can get you working in particular habits, start you going down a certain road, cue certain behaviors that you do almost without thinking. And the truth is, spending works this way too. Wasting money at times is something that can happen as a habit. And what I mean by that is we can use triggers, for instance, having a certain emotional state like stressed out, that then triggers behaviors like spending. I saw someone who posted the other day, a friend of mine, about how they were going to have to cancel a whole bunch of orders because the night before they were stressed out. And so they ended up going on Amazon and they listed these ridiculous things they bought. And they weren't ridiculous because nobody on the planet would ever buy them, but they were things that I know this person, they really didn't need and they really didn't want. They actually said, I only bought these things last night because I was stressed out and a little bit bored, and it just was something to do to pass the time. It lowered their stress. It lowered their boredom. Now, in this case, they're actually going to return these things, but still, think about how that happens. There's times that you've done that. You've spent mindlessly. This happens, by the way, in marketing. They actually try to develop a pattern and a habit in your mind where you associate certain colors, certain brands, certain things with doing something or spending something or buying something. That's how marketing works. There's always triggers around us. There's things that cue us to behave in certain ways. And so certainly some of those ways can include spending money, including spending money on things that you don't really want to spend money on, things that you really consider a waste of money when you stop back and look at it, things that aren't moving you towards your goals. They aren't building on your priorities, but instead, you end up looking up going, how can I spend so much money and have so little to show for it at the end of the day? But just as surely, you can use triggers to actually help you monitor your behavior and spend less overall. For instance, some of my clients actually take a Post-it note and they wrap their debit card with a Post-it note that says, remember, you're saving for that new house, or you're saving for vacation, or you're saving because you want to be able to quit the job that you hate. Whatever their big goal is, they write it out and they create a trigger so that every time they reach for that debit card, every time they reach to spend money, they immediately see that thing that reminds them of what their bigger goal is. And a lot of times they put the item back, they put the card back in the wallet, and they end up choosing to not buy that as well. Other folks create visual images. They'll create a picture of their goal and they post it right there where they see it every single morning, so that now their focus during the day is on that thing that they really want. Not necessarily an item, but that emotion, that feeling, that priority, that value, the thing that they really are after, that they want to align their money with, because that begins to have them change their behavior. Just as surely as triggers can cause you to spend money, you can create triggers that help you not spend money as well. But the key to both of these things is to actually examine your behavior, to be intentional about thinking about it. What is it that you do? What causes you to behave in a certain way? What are the mindless things that you spend money on? Think about it. Begin to keep a log. When do you buy those items without even thinking, without even worrying about it? Just mindless swipe. And as you begin to identify those things, think about again, what is the location? What is the emotional state? What's going on that triggers this behavior? And as you begin to identify the triggers, look if there's a way you can modify that trigger or that cue so that you can change the behavior. Look if you can identify the cue and break the habit loop before it even starts. Or create a new trigger that disrupts the pattern. Create something like that Post-it note. Or even sometimes just carrying your debit card or your credit card in a different place in your wallet, believe it or not, can change your spending behavior. Because by taking that extra moment of going to look for it, it slows you down enough that your brain kicks in and goes, wait, have I actually thought about this purchase? Is it in alignment with my bigger goals? Is it going to move me towards what I want? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you need to live like a spendthrift and never spend any money. That's not the point. The point is to be spending the money you spend intentionally, not just reactively. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of treasures, you can sign up for our treasures tips by going to inspiredstewardship.com/treasures or text in the U.S. 44222 treasures tips. And we'll send you 5 weeks of our best tips on stewarding your treasures. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.